This week, we've had another symptom of this border crisis. Authorities alleging that illegal immigrant was responsible for shooting two New York police officers, Josh. So this relationship with crimes being committed by illegal immigrants, all the other consequences of this enormous influx of people who've entered illegally, it is being felt in cities across America.
Rita, it's everywhere. It is truly everywhere. So I'll give you just one example. In late March, I was speaking in Columbus, Ohio, which is the capital of the state of Ohio. I was speaking to a group of lawyers about the war in Gaza, actually. And anyway, afterwards, I met with a prominent statewide elected official from the state of Ohio. I will not name names because it was an off-the-record conversation. But I was talking with this official about the immigration issue, and I basically said, sir, so-and-so, your state is not a border state, but what are you doing about immigration, XYZ? And he essentially cut me off and he said, Josh, what are you talking about? Every state nowadays is a border state. Because it is. Because we are feeling the pains of this all throughout the country. When you look at the number of migrants that Joe Biden has been flying in, has been busing in from the border, they have reached all of the extremities of the United States at this point. It is very much not limited to Texas and the Rio Grande Valley. It's not limited to the high Sonoran Desert in Arizona. It is truly everywhere. I mean, here in Florida, where I live, Florida is not technically a border state because we're surrounded mostly by water. But, there was a horrific instance of illegal alien crime in Palm Beach County just a month ago or so. And the Palm Beach County sheriff was actually very outspoken about this. He said this individual who committed these horrific rapes and traffickings and child predations, which I believe the alien was involved in all of that, the Palm Beach County sheriff said he should not have been here. He should not have been here, period, full stop, end of story. There are so many stories like this anecdotally. The murder trial, by the way, of the killer of Laken Riley in Athens, Georgia, has just started. So hopefully we'll see a modicum of justice there. But this is a national travesty. And Joe Biden, to put it mildly, Rita, is a little late to the game.
But on crime, we are seeing these soft on crime prosecutors, DAs and mayors. The Boston mayor, the Democrat Michelle Wu, she's pushing an entire soft on crime agenda, insisting that things like shoplifting, breaking and entering, underage drinking, drug possession, larceny, threats, they should not be prosecuted. And she also wants the Boston police gang database to be shuttered. How are politicians like this getting elected, Josh? Are Democrats so dominant in parts of America that they can pretty much propose anything and still be elected?
Yeah, if you're a Soros-funded far-left prosecutor, you don't think that grand larceny or robbery or something else should be prosecuted. But apparently you think that alleged fraudulent bookkeeping, which a Trump organization may or may not have done with the legal expenses to Michael Cohen in furtherance of some undefined crime. I mean, just look at Alvin Bragg in New York City. He has been building up this case against Trump for many years now. Meanwhile, grand larceny, burglary, robbery, all these crimes have absolutely soared. In New York City, if you are a robber or a burglar, you probably know that you are not going to be prosecuted. Again, if you're Donald Trump, then I guess you know that you're going to be prosecuted. So part of the problem, Rita, it really is George Soros. I mean, George Soros is a singular menacing force when it comes to American politics and when it comes to the problem of the so-called progressive prosecutor in general. He funds them all across the country, in Los Angeles and San Francisco. Now, there is a silver lining here, which is that some cities have shown signs of not having it anymore. So in San Francisco, 2 years ago, you had the Soros-funded prosecutor Chesa Boudin, who actually was recalled in a recall election. Now, unfortunately, the successor wasn't too much better, but at least slightly better. But in Portland, Oregon, which is essentially the American home of Antifa, that's a far-left city if there ever were one, the Soros-funded progressive prosecutor actually just lost his primary in Portland, Oregon, just a couple of weeks ago. So there are some signs of a pushback. Me personally, I take solace in the fact that I live in a red state where I don't deal with any of this nonsense. And I hope that more sane Americans choose to make that leap from these blue states that are ridden by crime, ridden by illegal aliens, and make the move to red states, which are home to civilizational sanity.
Now, Hunter Biden's federal gun trial is underway. The jury will hear about how the president's son got his brother's widow, who he was having sex with at the time, hooked on crack cocaine. Haley Biden is one of the people who's going to be giving evidence in this case. She's the one who was so worried about Hunter having a gun that she took it and dumped it in a bin near a school. Tell me about her being a witness in this case, Josh, and the fact that she had a recent visit from President Biden. I mean, is that a proper thing to be doing, to be visiting someone who's going to be a witness at your son's trial?
No, it is most certainly not a proper thing to do here. I mean, the optics of this stink to high heaven, frankly. I mean, it has all of the look of the president of the United States trying to intimidate a key witness right before his son is facing potentially up to 25 years in prison. So, look, Democrats know, Rita, that the media will cover for them no matter what. So they feel totally emboldened to do stunts like this out in the open, knowing that no one other than, than conservatives like me will come on a rant about it. But the New York Times, Washington Post, they will never raise an eyebrow. To them, this obviously looks fully proper, but it is anything but that. Look, the Hunter Biden gun trial, a lot of my fellow conservatives are not really paying a lot of attention to it because the special counsel, David Weiss, has not charged Hunter Biden with foreign stuff, with FARA, with Ukraine, China, any of the juicier stuff. But the reason that I am paying attention to this gun trial, Rita, is because Hunter Biden is dead to rights on these actual charges, on these gun charges there, which essentially allege that he was a drug addict at the time that he purchased a firearm, that he was trafficking that firearm while being a drug addict. The reason that we know that he is dead to rights and that he has committed this crime is because he literally admitted it. He literally admitted it in his memoir, Beautiful Things, in 2021. I don't know who his lawyer was, who his literary agent was, who thought that was a good idea, but we know based on the audio on his laptop and in the memoir itself that he did this. So the reason that I'm following this trial closely, Rita, is because this is actually going to be a perfect test of the impartiality or fairness of America's justice system. After what happened to Donald Trump just now in particular, if there is anything left to take any pride in whatsoever in the American criminal justice system, Hunter Biden has to go to jail. Not home confinement, not probation, nothing like that. He is dead to rights on these charges, up to 25 years. I want to see a prison sentence.
Now, before you go, I've got to ask you about Senator John Fetterman from the great state of Pennsylvania. He's a changed man. He went into a facility, has come out completely different, more coherent, just with a better sense and grasp of everything. And he recently received a standing ovation at Yeshiva University after telling students in a commencement address that he was profoundly disappointed with his alma mater, Harvard. And he was so ashamed that he took off his crimson Harvard hood. Let's have a look.
And for me personally, I do not fundamentally believe that it's right for me to wear this today.
And the students sure did appreciate his comments. They celebrated. So just briefly, Josh, what happened to Fetterman? How is he so dramatically different to the man from 2 years ago?
Yeah, John Fetterman might be the first person that I've ever seen who suffered literal physical brain damage and became a much more sane and rational human being as a result of that. I've never seen it before, to be honest with you. But if you go back to the Pennsylvania U.S. Senate race back in 2022, John Fetterman did not run as a moderate. He ran as essentially a squad AOC Ilhan Omar candidate in the U.S. Senate. If he had continued on that trajectory and had not suffered that stroke, he would be among the most radical left-wing senators in the entire U.S. Senate, along with people like Tammy Baldwin and Bernie Sanders, probably people like that. But he's a changed man now. And, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to know what the correlation is between having a physical stroke and somehow emerging much more sane and rational as a result of it. What I can tell you, and that video that we just saw kind of underscores his point, he's become something of a folk hero, frankly, in the American Jewish community. I have a lot of Jewish conservative friends, Jewish Republicans, who are even just laudably praising John Fetterman. A couple of them are even saying that they're going to write in a vote for him this fall. I obviously am not going to do that myself. But the fact that John Fetterman has emerged like this, especially on the Israel issue, on fighting anti-Semitism, it is a small sign of hope, Rita, amidst a Democratic Party that increasingly overall really does seem to be lurching to the very, very, very far left on this issue and other issues. But people like Fetterman, I guess, do give at least a small modicum of hope.
Well, yeah, he's an outlier, and I don't know if the stroke had anything to do with it, but yeah, he disappeared for a period, came back, and now we have a man who's far more lucid, far more centrist. He was radically left when he was first elected into the Senate. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you.